Okay, so in the previous audio, basically I talked about how we maintain our blood pressure as a result of sodium. So this is just a simple illustration of what happens when sodium is increased or decreased in our circulatory system. So for instance, if our sodium levels start to decrease, as we see over here, then what happens is our adrenal glands, which are located on the top of our kidneys, release aldosterone, and aldosterone allows our body to ultimately retain sodium. And so when our sodium is retained, guess what happens? We now have more fluid in our circulatory system. On the other hand, if our sodium levels are increased right over here, aldosterone is not released, and ultimately we excrete sodium from our system. So again, think about this from a sports perspective and think about the purposes of sodium and what it does, and nerve conduction and muscle cramping. And so sometimes people say, oh, you need to consume salt tablets. Don't do salt tablets. All right. Fluid, water, and sodium are important components for both nerve conduction and the ability of that sodium to actually be used for nerve conduction, and also the ability of our body to keep us from being dehydrated. So think about it. If I take salt tablets, right, and my sodium levels increase, then I am going to be drawing fluid out of my cells to go into my circulatory system. Okay, so ultimately what we're then doing is we're still dehydrating ourselves, and our body is not going to function like we need it to function. So we'll talk a little bit about salt tablets and whether athletes should or should not take them. But think about it. Does it make sense if I'm going to increase my level of dehydration by taking salt tablets in an attempt to prevent muscle cramping? So there's a lot of mechanisms that go on when we start thinking about taking sodium.